Yeah. So you enjoyed getting your PhD then? Like it was good, rough, bad, like you said, like it was easier because you got your master's degree, but
Yes and no. There are good parts and bad parts, just like everything else. Um, the good. I was surrounded by good people.
okay.
If you go to graduate school, like I like economics.
Sure.
Went to college, got a degree, studied with some nice people.
Sure.
Went to the master's program, worked with some fantastic people there too.
Sure.
And by the time you get to the PhD program, everybody who's entering the program with you is smart.
Mhm.
They're all hardworking and they're all interested in the same stuff you're interested in.
Okay.
So you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are every bit as smart as you, every bit as hardworking as you are. So it's a good time because you're working with people that like the same stuff you do. You have a unified purpose in your first year, which is passing. Most schools have preliminary exams.
Right.
So you do a full year of micro theory, macro theory, and econometrics, and you
Sure.
have to pass an exam in each. They're rough exams. So you're all studying the same material. You're all trying to pass. And that sort of forges bonds between people, I think. After the first year in my program, I was good friends with everyone in my cohort.
Mhm.
Um, so that's good because you're working on stuff you're interested in with like-minded people.
Mhm.
That's the best part about it, I think.
Right.
There are definitely downsides to it. You run into administrative hurdles at the university. It
Yeah,
can be a
what's
pain.
what's 6 years of academia like? I mean, more than 6 years because you did your master's too, but it's 6 years of graduate academia at the same school. Your first year, it's hard to kinda, like, get through it, right? Like, if it were, like, a master's program, you could be like, "Well, I only gotta do this 2 years, I can get through it." PhD program, it's like, "This is 6 years." That's not just a bite the bullet, or, like, if it is a bite the bullet, it's a long bullet to bite.
That's true. So it's yeah. So the downsides is of getting a PhD. It's a long time,
Right.
and you're not making money.
Right.
You're working hard. But the worst part is the uncertainty.
Mhm.
So if people talk about like residency programs. If you're a physician,
Mhm.
it stinks. You work a ton of hours. You don't make very much money. So in that respect, it's similar to being a PhD student. The flip
Okay.
side is the expiration date if you're a medical resident.
Right.
Like if you're a resident in orthopedic surgery, when your 5 years are up, you're done.
Mhm.
If you're getting a PhD, there is no sell by date. You're done when you're done.
Right.
Like when your faculty sign your stuff, you're done, and they can dangle it in front of you. So they know that if they don't sign your dissertation, they're standing between you and potentially millions of dollars of lifetime earnings,
Mhm.
and they know it. So there are some faculty members out there who will sit on you for a while, make sure they get value from you before they're willing to let you go.
What's that value look like? It's not just grading tests, like, what's the real value they're getting?
So economics does a pretty good job getting people out, I think, relative to some other fields. Some of the hard sciences in particular. I'm
Mhm.
speaking out of school here a little bit, but
Speak.
if you're doing chemistry, if you're training up graduate students to produce data for you for your publications,
Mhm.
that's going to be a very technical skill that people need to learn. So, like, let's say you're doing, I know someone who does biochemistry. So, let's
Okay.
say you're growing bacteria to express a protein. You need to grow your bacteria to express the protein using a set of protocols.
Mhm.
But you need to make small tweaks in your protocols until you get it just right where you're maximizing your yield. If you leave, they need to bring in somebody new to take over.
Mhm.
They don't know all your little tricks that you did to maximize your yield. They have to relearn it.
Right.
They have to not only learn the protocols you followed, they need to learn all the little small changes you made to the protocol to make sure that it worked properly.
Mhm.
So if you switch a research assistant, if you're in a hard science, it can be a year before you're back up to speed producing data. So they don't want to let you go if you're a good research assistant.
Right.
If you're really good in the lab, your advisor wants you to stick around as long as possible, produce as much data as possible, get as many publications as possible before they let you out the door.
Sure.
In economics, we don't really work that way for our faculty,
Okay.
so it's not as big of a problem. But I helped out designing courses. I wrote exams. I graded exams.
Sure.
I was a pretty good TA. Put a lot of time and effort into teaching students, and that makes professors' lives a lot easier.
Sure.
If you have a TA who's on top of things, you don't need to waste your time grading, maintaining the website, answering emails from students saying, I swear I logged into the website. Your server just didn't record that information. So if you have, so there is still some element of extracting value before you let someone go. Because the other issue with PhD programs is if you start somewhere, you can't finish somewhere else.
Right. You can't transfer. There's no transfer credit. Yeah.
You have to start all over again. So they know if you're 5 years deep, they got you good. If they treat you bad enough, yeah, you might quit outright, but you can't go to a competitor.
Right. You can't go to a competitor. And you're probably in debt, I would imagine, too. I have to imagine it depends on the person, probably, but
it depends on the program. So most, definitely the hard sciences, some in the social sciences, most PhD students are funded.
Okay.
So they pay your tuition and then they pay you $2,000 a month, $2,500 a month. Yeah. Enough that you can survive without going into debt.
Sure.
But you're definitely not accumulating wealth as a graduate student.
Right.
But in any case, the fact that they can sort of dangle your graduation in front of you adds a lot of stress to the whole process, because you don't know that, okay, June 12th, 2020, I'm gone.
Right.
You don't have that finality to it.
Right.
And you could even get to the dissertation defense. Mm-hmm. They could pass you on your defense.
Right.
And then they could say, we pass you with revisions. And they could drag out your revisions for months if they chose.
So it's more like revisions, right? Like it's not. Yeah. Okay.
Now, most people don't do that. If you get to the point where you defend, the vast majority of the time, they will, have you make minor revisions that'll take you maybe a month and you'll be done.
Sure.
So the defense is sort of when people view it as being over.
Okay.
When people get their defenses scheduled, there's usually a big sigh of relief.
Got it.
But even then, there's still a certain amount of uncertainty about whether or not you'll graduate. So the worst part was really that. Even though like my advisor was a good guy, I knew he was going to graduate me.
Yeah.
There's still that little bit of uncertainty there that, something might go wrong.
Sure.
Maybe I made a mistake with my data work somewhere that'll come out. Not knowing when you're going to finish, right? If you went out on a run,
mm-hmm.
and you were told you get to stop when the judges tell you to stop and not before,
right?
That's going to be an awfully hard race to run.
Sure. Yeah, that's tricky.
And that's the worst part of the PhD.